All right, we're going to be talking about the kindness of God tonight. And I got started on this, man, and I have just not let it go. It's been just delicious, so wonderful. Um, we'll start it with, what's one of the kindest things someone's ever done for you? Or maybe even something you've done for someone else. Kindness. What does it look like?
Someone paid for my, like they said, we'll pay for your tuition as you go to school. So that was a kindness I'll never pay back.
Yeah,
Good.
that's beautiful.
Cindy, was that a hand? Hello, Cindy.
Hi. Um, a group of people were trying to celebrate my birthday, and the last time they celebrated it, the person who made me the cake, I couldn't eat it. It was a cake for her on my birthday, like for real. And then the next time, my girlfriend made me this. This was for our dance group. She made me this amazing cake and it was gluten-free. And I said, "Dang, girl, are you serious?" She said, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh, I will." I was just so touched. That really made an impact on me.
Was for you.
Yeah, it was for me. It wasn't for anybody else, but it was good for everybody. Everybody loved it.
Anybody else? One of the kindest things someone's ever done for you.
Prayers. People who say, I'll pray for you after hearing something and they are specific to whatever that may be.
Signal is not good.
Praying.
I can share. For me, one of the kindest things, when I was in my senior year of high school, my cousin, she, because oh, sorry, thought my brain was clear tonight. She basically paid for my dress to go to prom and basically paid for my prom.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I would not have been able to go, but that was very kind.
Yes. Okay, awesome. We've all had some degree of kindness showered down on us, or we have showered it down on others. It can be something big, somebody paid for my prom dress or paid for my tuition or whatever. Or it could be they made a cake that I can actually eat. I spoke to a childhood friend. He called me this week to say happy birthday, and he said, I'm your oldest childhood friend. We've been friends for 64 years, and he's all excited. He said, and do you remember? And of course, he told the story about he used to eat my beans for me. I can't stand beans. I hate it. And in kindergarten, they said you would sit here at this table until you eat these beans. I remember and I was defiant. I refused, I refused, I refused. They got up. He came and ate my beans for me so that I could get up and go play.
Oh,
So they're simple little things, but just as humans, we do things of kindness for people. But tonight I want to be talking about the difference between man's kindness and God's kindness. What do you think? Is there a difference? And if so, what do you think that would be?
well, I would say, being that we're the image bearers of God, God's kindness is expressed through humans, right? And so, no, I don't think there's a difference. Maybe us acknowledging it would make the difference, but because it usually shows up through humans, I don't see the difference. But that's me.
Okay. All right.
I would say the motivation, like God's motivation is always pure. And so that if the motivation is to show God's kindness to someone, then there's no difference. But if it's otherwise motivated, then it's more from a human standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take a look at really one of the definitions in the Bible of God's kindness, and then we're going to look at his kindness in action. Go over to Luke. Luke chapter 6, and I can have someone read verse 35 and 36. Luke 6:35 and 36.
I can read it.
Okay.
All right. It says, but love your enemies, do good to them, and lend to them without expecting to get anything back. Then your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, because he is kind to the ungrateful and wicked. Be merciful just as your Father is merciful.
So, how is God kind? How does his kindness show up?
By us getting things we do not deserve or we do not work for.
Yeah. I love it when it says, because he is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. You know, we think about those that were kind to us or those we've been kind to. Usually they don't have ungrateful and wicked attached to them. You know, it's people who have loved us or we've loved them or they care about us. But God's kindness extends beyond those that are kind to us. He starts it out by saying, being kind, even being loving towards the wicked, towards the ungrateful, towards your enemy. We tend not to be so kind to our enemy. Do you have anybody say anything or do anything today to make you kind of want to lose your religion?
Yeah.
Every minute, every day, I get a little something, something. I have to make a decision. Whew, okay, BJ. You got to be God's kind or BJ kind. Which one are you going to be today? Because it's easy to lose it.
Mm-hmm.
I want us to look at our main story tonight is going to be over in 2 Samuel. For those who've been with me, I did this story probably about 3 years ago, but from a different angle. So I don't think anyone was on. Maybe Cindy could have popped on by then, but from a different point of view. 2 Samuel chapter 9, David and Mephibosheth. Mephibosheth. I see a lot of people eating, so I need a good reader though. So who feels like they can read? Brenda, you done? Okay.
I'll just throw my
He
food.
beat me.
Okay, so chapter 9, the entirety.
Chapter 9, the whole thing, 1 through, yes, the whole thing, please.
Um, I'm reading from the NLT, and that is 2 Samuel chapter 9, right? Okay. One day, David asked, is anyone in Saul's family still alive? Anyone to whom I can show kindness for Jonathan's sake? He summoned a man named Ziba, who had been one of Saul's servants. Are you Ziba? The king asked. Yes, sir, I am, Ziba replied. Then the king asked him, is anyone still alive from Saul's family? If so, I want to show God's kindness to them. Ziba replied, yes, one of Jonathan's sons is still alive. He is crippled in both feet. Where is he? The king asked. In Lo-debar, Ziba told him, at the home of Machir, the son of Ammiel. So David sent for him and brought him from Machir's home. His name was Mephibosheth. He was Jonathan's son and Saul's grandson. When he came to David, he bowed low to the ground in deep respect. David said, greetings, Mephibosheth. Mephibosheth replied, I am your servant. Don't be afraid, David said. I intend to show kindness to you because of my promise to your father Jonathan. I will give you all the property that once belonged to your grandfather Saul, and you will eat here with me at my table, at the king's table. Mephibosheth bowed respectfully and exclaimed, who is your servant that you should show such kindness to a dead dog like me? Then the king summoned Saul's servant Ziba and said, I have given your master's grandson everything that belonged to Saul and his family. You and your sons and servants are to farm the land for him to produce food for your master's household. But Mephibosheth, your master's grandson, will eat here at my table. Ziba had 15 sons and 20 servants. Ziba replied, "Yes, my lord the king, I am your servant, and I will do all that you have commanded." And from that time on, Mephibosheth ate regularly at David's table, like one of the king's own sons. Mephibosheth had a young son named Micah. From then on, all the members of Ziba's household were Mephibosheth's servants, and Mephibosheth, who was crippled in both feet, lived in Jerusalem and ate regularly at the king's table.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. I know that's a big word. We just call him Mo. It's easier. Mephibosheth, you can just call him Mo, whatever is easy. What stands out for you in that reading? Anything?
So David has no reason or even right to be giving anything to Mephibosheth or any of Saul's family. In fact, he should be going and killing them all, because that was the law, that everyone who is from the other king should be annihilated. So it's interesting that he actually goes over and just he takes him on as his own son, because of a promise he held, and because of a friendship that was so dear to him when he was coming up as a trainee. And also Mephibosheth realizes that, because he says, "Why would you be kind to a dead dog?" It's kind of like, hey, I do not deserve to even be alive. Why?
Okay, good. Who else? We're going to talk about all this. What stands out for you? That was 14 long verses.
Mo didn't feel worthy. Immediately was like, well, he called himself a dead dog, being crippled. And I'm sure there's probably some feelings of forgotten or unworthy, just guessing and how he spoke about himself. So he was, caught off guard and probably didn't feel worthy.
Yeah. What you get?
One of the things that stood out to me, did you say a name? I'm sorry, I didn't want to speak over someone.
Go for it, Chrissy.
Oh, okay. Just that God's kindness makes no sense. That's what I got. It's just like, what? Everyone involved. It was just like, it makes no sense that David would seek out someone to show God's kindness to. And then the person receiving it is like, this just makes no sense, you know.
Good. Anybody else? What jumped out? I always like to ask it that way. Thank you, Cindy. We'll come to you. I like to ask it that way because whatever jumps out at you is what God is speaking personally to you. We can all sit here and read the same 14 verses and different things go. That's God's way of speaking. Cindy.
Well, I was looking at Ziba, and he was associated with, he was a servant of Saul's household. It's interesting that he wasn't, killed along with everybody else. But Saul and his son Jonathan were killed in battle at the end of 1 Samuel, in chapter 31. And in the first chapter of 2 Samuel, you see David, talking to an Amalekite who was in the battle, and he's asking him some questions. And then he says, yeah, I killed him. And David just says, why weren't you afraid to tell me that? And then he kills him, and that's it. Boom, you're dead. So David could do things like that, and it was sanctioned, but he doesn't do that with Mo here. But it's interesting that Ziba becomes a servant. He was the servant of a king, and now he's the servant of his king's son's son. and he is
The
a
grandson.
cripple. So I don't know. This might have been very humbling for him because
Mhm.
he and his whole household became basically servants, sharecroppers, because Mo just could not, he couldn't take care of his own crops or do anything like that.
Right, right. Yes, a reversal of fortunes. Erica.
So I'm calling him Mep for short.
Okay.
It's Mep who received the blessing, right? Or
Yes.
one of the people. So
Mm-hmm.
the way that it hit me was that the last line, I'm reading from King James Version. So the last line, it said that, you know, he was able to eat continually at the king's table and was lame on both his feet. So to me, it's that God gives you what he knows you need, not what you want. Because I thought the way this story was going to go is that the blessing would be that he could magically walk somehow in the end. But it shows that no, he's getting this other blessing, but he's still unable to walk. Um, that's kind of how I took it. Like that, he blesses us in some ways, but there's other ways where our lives still aren't going to be perfect at the end of the day. And there's always going to be continued lessons and room for growing through adversity.
Yes. Oh, listen to that. That gives me chills. That's God speaking personally to everybody on this screen. I love what just came out. We got this story of David, and as Cindy was pointing out, if you go back to the history, the whole Saul's whole family was being pursued and wiped out. So Saul throws himself on the sword. He's like, because if they capture me, they're going to kill me. So he just throws himself on the sword. Jonathan does the same. So his whole family is being wiped out so they can be taken off the throne. Then you have this young boy, Mephibosheth, who was only 5 years old. So the nanny, in an attempt to save him, grabs the baby, starts running, trying to get away from those who are pursuing, falls, the baby falls, and he becomes lame. That's how he became lame in both feet. So they put him out in this place called Lodabar and just forgot about him. They figure he's lame, he can't do anything anyway. All of the able-bodied men are dead. So we can now take over and move on. So out here in Lodabar is this kid who's growing up that's lame. He is, as somebody pointed out, the grandson of a king. Meanwhile, he's out in this place called Lodabar. Lo means no, bar means nothing. Nothing. This is his place in which they put him, where there was just nothing, no thing, because that's how they viewed him. As Tabney was saying, he must have had some feelings about himself. He did. He had the same feelings everybody else had about him. I don't even have to worry about him. Have you ever been in competitions or even something as simple as a spelling bee or something growing up that you were not good at? So people were like, oh, I don't have to worry about Erica. I have to worry about so and so because they're really good, but Erica, she's not any good anyway. How does that make you feel when somebody dismisses you before you even get started? You've been dismissed,
Defeated. Yeah.
defeated. Yes.
I've always,
So if you,
I think I've always been the underdog.
all right. So when you grow up as the underdog, Shannon, what does that do to you?
Well, you fight harder, right? To do, to not be the underdog. And I think you become stronger.
Yes. But with that fighting harder, there's feelings that you have to overcome with it as well.
Well, sure, of course. You can go one way or the other with that, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we hear when, as Tabney pointed out, he refers to himself as this dead dog. Who would
Mm-hmm.
refer to themselves as a dead dog? Someone who's overcome, someone who's still in the battle.
Somebody
Who would refer?
Someone who's,
out.
yeah,
Someone
who's done.
bitter.
Yes. So
When
here,
defeated.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the fact that there's a lot of feelings attached to Mo. Mo's got some stuff. He's out in Lodabar, forgotten by everybody, but he's just moving on. You know, I love the fact that it actually says he had a son. I'm like, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So that implies what?
Only his feet weren't functioning. Everything else was functioning. And looking, so they found him a wife because he was the grandson of a great king, so he still had a good bloodline in him.
Well, even though he had an ailment, he was lame. He had something that was barring him from being his everything. He still continued to live.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
God brought that to my attention because so often we're all living with some kind of ailment. There's something that's hindering us. And God is saying either you continue to live, as Shannon was saying, and you push through it and you fight even harder, or you give into it. Somehow this man had a family and he must have continued to live. But before we get to that, I got ahead of myself. We got to talking about him. I want to talk a little bit about David. Somebody had mentioned he didn't have to go after doing anything nice for him. Why do you think he did?
Because Jonathan did something good for David when was David didn't need that favor from Jonathan, because it meant that by Jonathan taking him under his wing and protecting him, he was forfeiting his ability to become the king after his father died. And his father, in fact, wanted to kill Jonathan for that act. So David recognizes that to some extent, he's king right now because somebody, a good friend, gave himself up for that.
Jonathan was
David,
protecting him from Saul trying to kill him. And so Jonathan just bent over backwards and he said, you're my brother. I'm taking care of you.
yes. David had experienced kindness of his own. And therefore, because he experienced kindness, he wanted to repay kindness. I love, though, how he corrected himself, or extended, maybe not corrected. In the very first part, he asked the question,
Is anyone in Saul's family still alive? Anyone to whom I can show kindness for Jonathan's sake?
he says, is there anyone left in Saul's family that I can show kindness to? And then the second time he addresses that question to Ziba, he says, is there anyone in Saul's house who I can show God's kindness to?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I asked, is there a difference? Because he's saying, man, they've been kind to me. I want to be kind as well. So is there anyone? And then he realized, not my kindness,
Mm-hmm.
God's kindness. There is a difference.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to be the example, the outpouring of God's kindness.
Mm-hmm.
So when they say that, yes, there's this nobody out in this nothing land, but you don't have to worry about him. He was like, no, 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 no. That's exactly who I want.
Mm-hmm.
How long did it take? If you think about Mo, Meshibafeth, did he know that he was the son of a grandson of a king?
Oh, I bet he did. There is absolutely no way he does not know that he is the grandson of a king. He knows, but because he's crippled, he deserves nothing, but he knows his lineage, given the Jewish culture or the Judean culture.
Okay. If you knew that you were the daughter
Mm-hmm.
of a queen, of a king,
Mm-hmm.
and you are struggling to just simply pay your bills or make it through life on a day-to-day basis, but yet you knew my grandfather is blah, 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 how would you be feeling in the depths of who you are?
Well, that depends though, because he is the grandson of a defaced king or defamed. So his lineage ended. So I guess in a way, maybe even him hiding is a good thing, because then there's no attention to him that he might put his life in danger. That's how I'm looking at it. That
Mhm.
the king is not kind, the new king is not kind enough, and he wants to annihilate every bloodline.
Mhm.
So I don't know. But if I was just the forgotten daughter of a queen, oh man, I'm pulling Cinderella every day, telling everybody how I still deserve to be somewhere. They've forgotten about me. Yeah.
Yeah.
See-
I was just thinking something similar to what Brenda just said, but like just I guess you know how like people like, man, how things should have been or could have been or would have been, you know, like shoulda, woulda, coulda. If
Yes.
that would be like just tough to know, like, wow, this wasn't supposed to be my life. Like as the son of a you know, of a future king, I was
Mhm.
supposed to be a prince,
Mhm.
not this
Yes.
dead dog in nowhere town, you know.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. I want us to think about that. Yes, he was in hiding, and yes, it was probably good, as Brenda was saying, that he was obscured. He was in obscurity. However, human nature, there's a part of us that goes, my life shouldn't have, it wasn't supposed to be like this. When it's really rough or we're really hurting, we go, how did I end up here? This isn't fair. He did nothing to cause his lameness,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And the nanny, bless her heart, was trying to do good. So it's like something horrible happened and there's no one really to blame for it. So
Mhm.
you can't help to go, but man, it didn't have to be my life. Brenda.
Okay, as you say that, and then this is my brain trying to connect it to God's kindness. This boy, God showed him kindness from the beginning. Yes, he didn't need to get lame, but that falling down and getting lame is what saved his life.
Yes.
And now David going, okay, somebody deserves God's kindness. It's kind of,
Yes.
hey, you were saved from the beginning, but how about we complete that so that you feel a sense of full belonging? Because then he became son of David. That's belonging. So, anyways, that was where I went.
Yes. Awesome.
Yeah.
Shannon.
So there's something as we're speaking about God's kindness that I haven't heard said that always hits me every time, and that's timing.
Mm,
Wherever we are in our lives, his perfect timing of exactly what we need when we need it is always, always, always on point. And as I turn 55 now, tomorrow, I look back and I see all the times he was actually there in the past that I never really thought about, during that moment when I was younger, in my 20s, as we all look back, right? All the times that he was there in his perfect timing with his kindness to save my butt out of something, saving my bacon again.
Yes. God's timing. Hey, Z, we're in Second Samuel. Where did I say, guys?
9, chapter 9.
Chapter 9, 1 through 14. Thank you. Yes, I want us to look at God's kindness follows us throughout our lives. Here he was at the age of 5, had nothing to do with him, but God knew if I don't get him out of here, they're going to kill him. So God's kindness swept in, even though it didn't look the way I'm sure we would want it to look. We need to be able to look back on our lives and go, God's kindness swept in, even though it didn't show up the way I wanted it to show up. Now, where was David when when Mo was just 5 years old, being dropped by the nanny?
David was
Hiding.
like, wasn't he like returning from the Philistine stronghold and trying to then going around the back to fight for Saul's army? Yeah, so he was in the battlefield.
Was in the battlefield. What did he learn in the battlefield? What did God have him do? Because he was doing battle after battle after battle. It was like one after the other after the other. God was teaching David some stuff. What
God,
did David learn along the way?
he learned about God's provision, God's protection, God's kindness in many ways, like people being providing for him when he didn't deserve it, or even King Achish taking him under his wing when David needed a place to escape to. That's all God's kindness. So
This whole period of time in which Mo is down in Lodabar, lost, dwelling in nothing, God was preparing this man, David, but he had to first teach him what kindness really looked like. You know, you go, God, what took you so long? Couldn't you have just swept in and made Mo all better? Like Erica said, I expected the story to be different. I expected him to be healed, and God didn't go that route. Instead, he took all this time to get David ready so that David could then turn around and show kindness. Shannon, did you still? I saw your hand come up and I saw it go away.
No, no, it's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So here we've got God getting David ready. There were 18 years between Mephibosheth being lame, fallen and becoming lame, and the time that Ziba came and knocked at his door. 18 years. How would you feel if God waited 18 years before he came about and took you out of something that was a bad situation? How do you feel?
sometimes you just feel like, oh, sorry, my brain, like the brain got all this and then it short circuited.
Short circuited, I know.
So let me get, so you forget and you kind of go with life becomes the norm as the flow. Yes, you might go, wow, if my father was here, if my parents were here, this might not be happening, but you kind of just go with the flow until that thing happens. Then that's when everything comes back like, yeah, I was done wrong.
Janet, I see your hand.
So, I've actually been in this, right? Okay, you guys know I'm in the desert, right? And I hit the desert 10 years ago when I left San Francisco and I came out here when my father passed. And 4 years ago, I lost my husband. So now I've been in solitude in the desert. Okay, and the thing to save me was Jesus. You guys already know this. Here's the thing, I'm in that. I'm coming out of it. The worst case scenario that I can imagine ever being in, right? And I'm in the dark place and I'm coming out of it now, out of it for a couple of years, and I'm grateful for it. I love it. It's like man, the gratitude of it's so humbling. You know what I mean? Like it's just gratitude and humility.
Okay. All right.
Pain and is humbling to me now, and I'm grateful for pain. It's strange to say. I know it sounds strange, but I'm grateful.
That sounds strange. Cindy, thank you, Shannon.
I was thinking about the guy in, I think it's John chapter 5, where he's lying by the pool of Siloam and he can't move, and there is no way for him to get in the water. And Jesus just heals him right there. And this was something I was sharing like in my group, the group that I started for autoimmune conditions. And then, there was nothing he could do for it. And Mo is the same thing. There was nothing he could do for it. And it looks like it's just out of the blue. And who knows that these people might be crying out to God. I was, thinking about the group that I was sharing with. These are folks that, they struggle with autoimmune conditions, and it's very unpredictable, and it, drags them down. And a lot of times they don't look sick,
Mm.
People kind of wonder, like, what, and they don't really understand it, but God understands. So God understood this guy's predicament. He was not going to be able to walk. And it does look like it saved him, because if you look back in the text, when the king asked again, is there anyone left? And he asks the second time, Ziba said, well, there is still, that's really kind of telling, there is still a son of Jonathan. So it kind of implies that the rest were knocked out,
Mm.
per usual, like Brenda said.
But not immediately, just to make sure that that kid is saved. He's like, but he's crippled. He has to make sure that he formations his predicament, so that the king hopefully maybe doesn't go after him in a way that he thought he would be going after him.
Yeah.
Almost
Yeah,
like,
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he says, but he's crippled in both feet. So, everybody would understand, oh, well, then he must have been saved in somehow, because everyone else got annihilated.
Yeah.
But I
And you
thought
can,
about God's kindness, just dropping in on both of these individuals who both had some serious physical maladies.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, what I want us to see is that God's kindness is always at work. As somebody pointed out, his timing is perfect. He's always at work, and he's always pursuing us. We just don't know when he's going to come tap on our door. I'm sure Mo didn't have any clue the morning in which, or the evening in which, that knock came at his door. It wasn't like he was thinking about it. It just showed up.
Mhm.
Now it showed up 18 years later. But I want us to think about, how often do we get frustrated? God, I'm praying for this, or I'm asking for this, and you're not doing anything. We feel like God's not at work. But if we really look at this story and we trace it, God was working during all this time. It says he was working on getting David where he needed to be, in order that he could do what he needed to do for Mo. God could very well be working on someone else for your sake. And you can feel like, God, you've forgotten about me. I'm down here in Lodabar and you don't even care. Now, it doesn't say that that's how Mo felt, but you can
Yeah.
imagine that had to be, at times, it had to creep up on him. But I want us to see the incredible hand of God that's always at work. Why do you think he started with David so young? Because he could have brought David into the picture ready to go. Instead, he brought him into the picture not quite ready yet. So we get to see David develop.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, if you
Kind of
think
like
about,
Joseph.
like Joseph, like Moses, it's like he does this often. He'll start somebody really young, and we'll watch them go through their trials and tribulations and their ups and their downs, until they finally become, as in David's case, the man after God's own heart. Then he was able to show God's kindness. But until then, Mo had to wait. And that's the part we often feel like, this is unfair. Have you ever felt like, God, this is unfair? I'm just sitting here, I'm just waiting, and you're not doing anything. Maybe it's just me. Maybe no one else ever felt that.
Oh,
But
yes, I have. Yes, I have.
yes, Erica, I see your hand.
All the way up until Jesus showed up, and then I was like, whoa.
Okay, let me hear from Erica. What you got?
Yes, and Tabney reminded me of something and made me aware of something that just helped me to deal with the difficult times um with a through a more optimistic lens. The devil is after us the closer that we get to God. And so I almost now, when things get really difficult, I'm almost kind of grateful for it, because I'm like, yes, all right, come after me. Come on. Like, I'm getting closer to him. So bring it. Because I can do anything through him. I think God, it goes back to the verse you read off the top. It was something about how God rewards the bad people. To me, the way I interpreted that is that God's testing those of us who he knows are loyal to him. So we're kind of going through the trenches, and then the devil's after us too, as he knows that we're more loyal and devoted to God. And it's easier to feel close to God and grateful of God whenever things are great, right? It's a true test when you can still remain close to him through the difficult times. And that's kind of what I took away from that first verse you read, which ties into what we're talking about now as well.
Right. Yes, the question is always, God is always asking, can I trust you
Mm.
in the hard times? Not can I trust you in the good times? That's the easy part. But
Mm.
can I trust you in the hard times? Because that really is kind of what Eric is saying. When things are really rough, God is looking to go, will you still stand with me?
Mm.
Or do you give up in that time? Like I pointed out, Mo, for whatever reason, Mo kept living even through the hard times. Brenda.
Okay, that question you just asked is very thought-provoking, because normally I do not go about my life going, can God trust me? Right? My question is always like, God, can I trust you
Yeah.
to go through this? But the tables are turned, and I'm like, oh, great, this is just too much. But yet, that's the question I should be asking myself every day as I go through life. Can God
Yes.
be with this person who He's put in my life, in my walk right now, in my pathway?
Mm-hmm.
Trust
Mm-hmm.
kind to show that kindness that I feel like you do not deserve it because I know who you are, type thing.
Erica.
I see it kind of as a healthy challenge. On my optimistic days, I'm like, you know what? He's giving me this challenge because he believes in me and that I can make it through this. But do I believe in myself? Yes, I do, because I'm reminded that through him, I can do all things, right? All things are possible. And I
Right.
think that's just kind of a beautiful thing if you think of it that way, how much faith God has in us when we give him every reason not to believe in us.
Mm.
Yes, which takes us back, as Erica pointed out, to that very first scripture that we looked at. Somebody can tell us which one was it? It was Luke
Luke
6.
Luke 6.
35 to 36.
So Luke 6, 35 through 36. We get a chance to see what is God's kindness. He says he's kind to the ungrateful. He's kind to the wicked. Those are the people we shun. We're like, what have you done for me lately? Nothing. So I'm not going to do anything for you. And God's like, my kindness shows up across the board. His kindness shows up for every single one of us, whether we deserved it or not, which is why I think Mo is so important. He had nothing to give,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
Mhm.
There's nothing that he could have done to deserve any of this, but yet God lavishes on him all of this.
Mhm.
And that's what he does with us. We're Mo in this story. We're
Mhm.
also David in the story. Now, as we talked about in the beginning, did God heal him?
No, but that
No.
was mission.
What did you say, Brenda?
That was in the mission.
No. What did he do? He did not heal him, but he did something. What did he do?
Sense of belonging, because this was a kid who needed, like, this is an orphan, and God gave him family.
Did you guys hear that?
Yeah.
He was an orphan and God gave him family. How does that fit with us? Just that descriptive that Brenda just gave.
We're all orphans. I mean, really, all of us are disconnected initially from God. We're not included in his family, and we're counted what you would call the pot of the wicked, we're in this soup of sinfulness We don't
Yes.
do anything to deserve what God has for us, the great gifts of an eternal life. Oh my gosh. We're just
Yes.
like we're just like minnows in a big soupy pond, and he just scoops us up and says, "Here, come in this great fish tank, and it's got clean water, and I'm going to feed you, and everything's going to, I'm going to take care of you." So we don't earn any of that. Not at all. I mean, even
Yeah.
faith is a gift. It's something that you
Right.
can ask for and be
Right.
available to, and that's a choice, but that gift it's from God.
Yes. Look at the beauty of what happens in this story. Even though God doesn't heal him, and I think so often we put way too much emphasis on God heal me.
Mm.
He didn't promise us that he would do that. He did not heal him. Now, he did pull him out of Lodabar, this
Mm.
place of nothing. And where did he bring him?
To the king's table,
Table.
To the
Palace.
king's table.
to the palace. Okay.
Yes.
That boy
Again, if
servants
we
now could wash his feet and carry.
if you think about us, God brings this man who is lame in both legs from Lodabar to the king's table. Now he is covered by the blessings of God.
Mm.
If you think about, if you have all these people, if all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of us, if all 8 of us are sitting at the table, and I have this wonderful table laid and tablecloth and everything, could I tell which of us had a problem with our feet or our legs?
Nope.
Why? Why couldn't I tell?
Is the
'Cause
tablecloth covers
Because,
it.
and
because we're all covered.
yeah.
God brought this man who had something that was very obvious to the rest of the world. They all knew, as Ziba said, well, yeah, there's one, but he's crippled in both feet. The whole world could see he had a problem. And God was saying, not at my table.
Mhm.
At my table, we're all the same. We're all covered. So every one of us, even though each one of us have a struggle that
Mhm.
we're every day trying to overcome.
Mhm.
For some of us, it's visible. For others, maybe not, but we know it's there.
Mhm.
God is saying, once you come to my table, it's covered.
Amen.
And now we're all whole, we're all the same. And God brings blessing upon his life. He turns things upside down, where
Mm.
he has Ziba and all of his servants now serving the one who was lame, the one who was thrown away, the one who was tossed away. We should be able to look at that and go, God, you're saying that there is nothing that you cannot cover in my life.
Mhm.
If I have a problem with, I've always been an introvert,
Mm.
BJ personally. And God has always said, I need you to speak. I need you to come out of yourself. That's my area of lameness.
Mm.
That's my struggle. And I struggle with it all day, every day.
Mm.
But God covers it to a point where the average person wouldn't believe me if I said it. Now, you guys know me enough to go, oh, yeah, I know, because I've heard you talk about it. But the average person would have no clue. Why? It's been covered. What is it in your life that God has covered or is in the process of covering? You know it because it's there with you all day, every day. What is God covering for you?
Say, recently, just because of some special work that I've been doing, um, covering or untangling or diminishing isn't the right word, just kind of zeroing out the low self-esteem that I've struggled with due to family, they're called adverse childhood experiences. So if you take that ACE test, I've scored about 7 to 8 out of 10. Okay, others have had much more violent experiences. It's a really good test to take. But those things really held me down, and I had really just very few boundaries. And I just listened to a podcast that ties that together, which is kind of crazy, leaky gut with poor boundaries. And they found that kind of like 80% of those autoimmune conditions are in women, and they've suffered a lot of adverse childhood experiences. They score higher on this test, but it doesn't mean that it's an indictment. I used to think of it absolutely as like, this is it, like Mo's got lame feet and that's it. It's, there's nothing else that can be done with my life and I won't feel any different. But now I'm feeling and seeing progress in gaining territory of I have boundaries. They are strengthened. I believe I can do things. I believe that God believes in me. Things like that. So just small incremental changes.
Good, good. This is a wonderful story for you to be able to grab onto that and go, God is working. His kindness is covering me even in my ailment.
Mm.
I don't have to be healed of it in order for God to cover me. Anyone else? What is it for you?
Mine's very
Okay.
similar to what you said. It's just low self-confidence, and a lot of it I think stems from a toxic childhood, where my survival mechanism was to people please.
Mm.
And I very much turned into a people pleaser to my own detriment. It's good to
Mhm.
do things for others, but I would do things for others to my own detriment. I would put everybody before me every single time, even if it harmed me.
Mm.
And I, over these past couple years, well, just my health has been in decline and I'm getting answers. I'm learning that I have this autoimmune disease, which, as just explained, it all goes back to stress, leaky gut, all of it's connected to trauma, stress, all the toxic stuff you do in your life. And I was just talking with another autoimmune person who was recently diagnosed, and I pointed it all to stress. And she said she was just having trouble with her faith because why is this happening? And I said, I've kind of started to see my diagnosis and my poor health really as a gift. I know that's a crazy thing, but I see it as a gift because it is what has forced me to care about myself and switch the script and start putting me first because it's literally life or death at this point. And that's where I think God pushes us into these corners because he's like, you haven't been listening. And I got to say it in a way where you're going to hear it and start making the choices that are better for you.
It is God's kindness. See, Satan has told us it's God not caring about us.
Mm.
God's forgotten about you. God's forsaken you. And when we look at this more clearly, we go, no, this is God's kindness. It's got to catch up to me because it's not just kindness that that he's lavishing on me. He's lavishing kindness on someone else as well. So as we were seeing, he's lavishing it on David in order
Mm.
to get David to turn around and lavish it on Mo. So we've got to see it's not always about us.
Mhm.
Sometimes we have to wait. Just as when we're working with our kids and go, no, you need to wait your turn. You need to stand in line. It's like we understand it until it's us having to do it. And God is saying, my kindness will always follow you. But sometimes you're going to have to wait because it's not about you. I will make it around to you in just the right nick of time. But right now, my focus is on this person. And after that, it may go over to this person. I was sharing with Christy this on Sunday because we were talking about all this stuff buzzing in my head. It's amazing how we can pray and petition and God, please, and we don't see it because 18 years pass
Mm.
before it actually come to fruition. So I was telling Christy, I said, I don't doubt that I am feeling the kindness of prayers from my grandparents,
Mm,
prayers and petitions from, you know what I mean? There are things that they have prayed for diligently and they never saw it come to be.
mm,
And God is now showering it down on their granddaughter. There's
mm,
so much going on in my life right now. It's hard for me to keep up with it. I'm just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Prayers, petitions,
mm.
tears, all sorts of things, no doubt, has been raining down. God, where are you? God, please. And he's saying, it was meant for your great grandbaby. It wasn't
Mm,
meant for you.
mm,
We're living in the kindness of someone else. And because of that, we turn around and we say, is there anyone left for me to show God's kindness? That's what we saw in David. He understood in just that short little, is there anyone left for me to be kind to, is there anyone left in the house for me to show God's kindness? When we understand that there's a difference between our kindness and God's kindness, it changes things because our kindness comes and goes.
mhm,
It depends on the person and it depends on the day.
mhm.
And she's like, that's the truth.
Thank you.
But when we can identify how kind God has been for us, it makes it much easier for us to turn around and show his kindness to someone else. Amen.
Yep.
Good topic of discussion, ladies. Give me some feedback and we're going to get out of here. It's his timing. I see that. Thank you, Shannon.
This was really good to some, like Erica and Cindy's points when they were discussing some of their personal journeys. I had to go look it up. James 1, chapter 1, verses 2 to 4. Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. Steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. The other one is Romans 5. Starting at verse 3,
Mm,
we can rejoice too when we run into problems and trials, for we know that they help us develop endurance. Endurance leads to strength of character. Character strengthens our confident hope. All of that to say that everything he does is purposeful.
Yes.
And when Erica said she's starting to embrace those trials with smiles and okay, this is God rather than oh God, why me?
mm,
It's a whole
Yes.
mindset shift, and it allows him and our ancestors and our spirit guides to just come in agreement and partnership with us for our greater good, because what he's
Yes.
working in us is beyond us too. It's 2 or 3 generations past us in our lineage, just like we're in the space of receiving from 2 to 3 lineages before us. So I just wanted to drop those 2 quick verses because it's mentioned more times about we do need to be grateful for trials. We do need to be grateful for crippled feet and autoimmune and financial instability, because when we're uncomfortable is when he's doing his best work. So
mm, mm.
great message tonight. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Tab. Thank you.
I'm also living here going henceforth, like the question I'm operating on is, does God trust me in this situation as opposed to God, can I trust you? Because he already has, like, I already know that
Yes.
he's a foundation, he's the rock. So as I head into that day with all the people that come my way, does he trust that I will actually show his kindness and not say Brenna's being kind to you, but God is being kind to you?
Yes. Yes. Very good. Thank you. Erica.
Just one final thought about this discussion. It made me think about like parents as enablers. I think the most difficult type of parenting is when you choose not to enable and you have to kind of put your kids in a tough spot so they learn. And that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like God is doing to us and for us. He's not enabling our poor choices and our bad decisions. He's teaching us to be better.
Yes.
Mm,
Yes.
good.
Very good. Christy.
Yeah, I was just thinking, just to tag on to what Erica just said, that when you look at it that way, you see it's actually God's kindness to allow us to struggle or to not enable us to stay in the same place, you know. And then also BJ, when you said earlier that like how we're responding, like what we see is what God is communicating to us. And I was like, wow, that felt like that was just a powerful point, because I think about like I do feel like God's kindness is, well, usually it's unexpected and it's extravagant, because I don't expect some, you know what I mean? Like if like I mean, it can be in two different places where it's like, okay, this is my life and I have no expectation. Or you could be in the opposite place where it's like, okay, I feel entitled to a change, or I expect a change. But it's when we get to a place of surrender and God's kindness shows up, it's the most extravagant feeling, you know. So
It's worth
um
it. It's like
yeah,
so worth it.
yeah.
Beautiful. All right. Anybody else before we close out? Cindy.
So much for this. This was really great. I love this story because this guy just didn't have, I mean, he can hardly walk, he can't even walk. And just God's kindness, training David to be kind. I mean, when I look at what the all like about 30, 40 years of autoimmune issues that I've had, and just it's driven me to my knees. There were times I thought I was going to die, and God always sent somebody to rescue me and showed me great kindness. And you know, I love that healing story about Jesus healing that guy in pieces and stages. I can totally relate to that. And I often wondered why, you know, why that didn't happen all at once, you know, because I know Jesus can do anything, but there's a reason for it in stages sometimes because our characters need to be formed through it. And to be honest, I wouldn't know what I know if he had taken care of everything all at once, the digging, the research, but not just that, the naturopaths, the practitioners, the doctors.
Mm,
There are doctors who have trained me, and I
mm,
didn't realize it because I was showing up in their office every week. There's this old guy, he graduated from Georgetown, best doctor I've ever known, the most amazing detective work. He taught me so much stuff as he was trying to diagnose me. There were some things that he missed, but he was relentless. And I've never forgotten his kindness. And
mm,
so it's kind of like God brings all this stuff to like into a well, like some beautiful whole, and then you've got something to give to somebody else who's drowning. You throw them a life ring, and now you can pull them in. And they know, you know, it's okay. I'm not going to die. And there are answers, and there are people that God sends to you, and you just have to, like you always say, wait for those God sightings because it's really for real. They show up out of nowhere at the grocery store. I cannot tell you how many times I got a little dribble here and there, and I just followed it because I was listening for God, even in my impaired state. And so this was really powerful. This was a really great story and
mm.
how God's kindness comes down.
And
Yes.
your story of trying to, you know, your long journey of trying to heal yourself and now you're healing others. It very much mirrors the story we just read tonight of, you know, David being helped. I'm sorry, am I confused? Was David helped as well?
Yeah.
Right.
He was right.
David
So
helped. Yeah,
David
yeah.
was helped, and then
Yes.
Mo, or whatever we're gonna call him, he helped Mo in return. It's very similar.
Yeah, and there's just so I want to end it with this because this is the last thing that I wrote down. You think about why did David do this? Yes, as everybody's pointing out, God did it for David, but David did this not because of Mo, but because of Mo's father.
Mhm.
Jonathan, It's because of that
Of
relationship.
his Father. And if we bring that full circle, God does this. He lavishes all this kindness and love on us, not because of us, but because of the Father. The Father is what drives Jesus to do all of what he does. All of this loving kindness, all of this pursuing of us, all of this searching to make sure that we're embraced and cared for is because of the Father. So we look at, I just want us to see the connection between what we're seeing with David and Mo and what we're seeing with Jesus and us. God is trying to get us to see, because if we think about the fact that David had to grow up, go through some stuff and grow up in order to deliver what God wanted him to deliver. Jesus could have been placed on this earth full grown, but God did not bring him fully grown. He brought him here as a baby in a manger who had to grow up, go through some stuff, learn some things in order to deliver what his Father wanted to deliver.
Yeah.
There's just so many correlations. And that's why I say we are both Mo in the story, helpless, can't do anything to help ourselves. But God is saying, while you're hurting, while you're lame, I expect you to still live. I expect you to still live.
Amen.
It's no different from the parable of the talents and the one who buried the talent in the ground. He's like, no, 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 that did not please me. I expect you to live. I expect you to keep living. If your legs are lame, if you have a disease that's haunting you all day, every day, if you are afraid to speak, I expect you to still keep living until I circle around with my kindness and choose to do something different. I may choose to heal you. We see it a lot in the scripture. I may choose to heal you in bits and pieces, or I may choose not to heal you at all. I just may choose to simply bring you to the table. But if you're at the table, you need to understand that is the gift of all gifts. That gift is greater than the healing. That gift is greater than anything else. He says, if I bring you to the table, my table, and I cover you, then that means you are now whole because you're now a piece of me. Amen?
Amen.
All right. We're going to
Amen.
end it here, ladies.
Thanks.
That's
Awesome.
awesome. Thank you.
You.
All right, guys. Thanks so much. Good night. Stay
Good
strong.
night.
Night.
Good to see you, Erica.
Good to see you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Erica.